Hey guys, welcome back. Today on The Untidy Artist, I'll be showing you how to make soap. And in this tutorial, I'll be showing you how I mix together mica with oil to color my soap. When I was first starting out making soap, this is one of the things that confused me, so I wanted to do a tutorial to show you how to mix the colors up to color your soap. So let's grab some supplies and get started. I have my oils all melted down, and I've got my lye water mixed together, and I will post the recipe in the comments below. And I'm using a fragrance called 8th and Ocean, and this is from Nurture Soap, and it smells really good. The scent stays for quite a while, or it has a great retention, and it just smells wonderful and fresh. And then we'll be adding some coconut milk powder to the soap to make it nice and creamy. And I have some sodium lactate. I'll be adding 1.5 teaspoons of this to my lye water. And then I'll also be using some sweet almond oil to mix together my micas. So I have my Mica Colors that I'll be putting in my soap. All of the colors I'm using today are from Nurture Soap, and I absolutely love their micas. I've been really happy with the quality and the colors of the micas. So I have 3 different colors here. This is a sea moss. The first one was a flare mica, which has big pieces of glitter in it, and then this tidal wave blue mica, which is just this gorgeous deep blue color. And then I'll also be using winter white. This is a nice alternative to titanium dioxide, and you don't get glycerin rivers with this. I really like using the winter white, and so that's what we'll be putting in my soap. And then I have some cups that we'll be pouring the soap batter into to make our swirls. I have some little pipettes and some stirring sticks, and we'll be using those to put our soap together. And then we also have a bamboo skewer, and I'm going to use this to swirl the top of my soap. And then I've got these little cups. These are just little plastic cups, and I like mixing up my oils with my mica in these little cups. Now, it's smart to always mix your colors together before you start making your soap. So as I'm preparing everything to get ready to do my soap, I will take 1 part mica to 1 part of my oil. So for example, if I do 1 teaspoon of mica, I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of oil in. Now, if you want to measure, you can. I don't. I just kind of eyeball it. But just remember that you want an even ratio. So you want, this is probably about 2 teaspoons of mica to about 2 teaspoons of oil. And then you want to make sure, I have these little stirring sticks, or you could use a spoon. You want to make sure that you carefully mix it together and make sure that all of the lumps are out of it. Now with my white, it took me a little bit longer to get it all stirred together, but once they're stirred together and they're nice and pretty, this is what it looks like. And using the colors in the mica, or in the soap, is so much fun because there are so many different gorgeous colors. And I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon of dried coconut milk. So I'm just going to take it through my little sifter here, or my little strainer. And then I'm going to use my stick blender to mix in the powdered coconut milk into my warm oils. Now, for some reason, this batch of soap, when I was stirring it together, I got a lot of bubbles. So you'll see that in the finished product. And my lye water is right at 89 degrees. I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of my sodium lactate to my water. And then I am ready to mix everything together. So give that a nice stir. And you can see, of course, I have my gloves on. You want to make sure that you take all of the safety precautions when making soap. So my oils are at 85, my lye water is at 87. And now I'm going to gently pour my lye water into my oils. And I like to pour it against the spoon so you don't get a lot of air bubbles. And then I stir it for a little bit with my whisk, and then I'm going to, with my spatula, and then I'm going to take my stick blender, tap it at the bottom to get rid of any bubbles, get rid of the air bubbles, and then I just alternate between stick blending it and stirring it. And we want this to come to a light trace because we want to pour, my original plan was to pour a lot of light swirls, like a drop swirl, so you usually would want your soap batter to be quite thin. And at this point, everything is looking lovely. So just alternating between stirring and using the stick blender. And you can see it's just barely starting to come to trace. And as soon as I have it at a light trace, You can see it's beautiful. I'm going to add in my fragrance oil. Now, the thing about soap is you always have to be ready to adjust to anything that might happen. And when I added my fragrance oil to this soap, it started to rise. So it started to get all weird and bumpy. And I think it's because of the coconut milk that I added to my oils. I'm not sure. But what I did is I stirred it for a little bit and then I grabbed my stick blender and blended it up some more. Now, this is where I got most of my air bubbles, trying to get the rising out of my soaping to get it nice and smooth again. So at this point, my soap was a lot thicker and a lot, and not quite as thin as I wanted it to be to do the swirls, but that's okay. You just kind of go with the flow. So I'm adding my mica that I've already pre-mixed with my oils into my soap. And then I'm using this little tiny whisk to kind of just blend it up. And a spoon will work just fine. Also, just a normal whisk will work just fine. I got this one at IKEA. I think it was like $3. It's a little mini whipper. And it runs on batteries. You can see these really pretty colors. And then I use the stick blender to blend up my white a little bit more. And at this point, my batter's a lot thicker. You can see it's what I would consider a thicker trace. And it will work just fine. It's just not perfect for a drop swirl. So I'm going to add some of my white batter into my soap mold, and then I'm going to take my colors and I'm going to start dropping them in kind of in lines back and forth. So I went with my darker blue, and then I'm doing my turquoise, and then I'm doing my light blue, and then I'll take my white and I'm just kind of dropping it on top. My original plan was to do a drop swirl, but for a drop swirl you want your batter to be a lot thinner so that the colors can drop down into your base color and give you wispy swirls. This is going to be a little bit more defined swirls. They'll be a little bit thicker, and I'm just going to keep pouring them on in the order that I started with, and it got to the point where my batter was so thick that I couldn't actually pour it anymore, so I just started using my little stirring sticks and just putting it on kind of in little dollops down on my soap. And then I grabbed this little stirring stick and decided to swirl it through the soap both ways. So I'm kind of just twirling it around because I wanted those colors to be a little bit more mixed in. And then I'm taking whatever's left over and I'm putting it on top. It's always amazing to me how much batter is left in my containers as I scrape them out. So I'm scraping every last little bit of my soap batter out of my containers, and I'm going to smooth the top with my spatula. You can see my batter's nice and thick here, which will give us some pretty texture on the top of the soap. Once I have my white, I'm going to take what's left over and drop my other colors in, kind of in lines. So down one edge I do one color, down the other edge I do another color, and then I do my darker blue in the middle. And once I have all of that layered in, getting every last little bit of the batter, I'm going to grab my mica, and it's already mixed in with my oils still. This is the same mica we used to color our soap. And I'm using my little dropper to just add some little tiny drops of my mica. And what this will do is as we swirl the top, it'll create some really pretty just pops of color with the mica and a little sparkle. And I really love how it looks on the top of the soap. So I did dark blue mica on the dark blue, and then I just did the corresponding colors on top of each other, and then I'm grabbing my bamboo skewer, and just at the very top, you don't want to go down to the bottom layers, I'm swirling it back and forth. And then I decided to do it again. So I'm just swirling one way, then swirling the other way. And it gives us this gorgeous texture and kind of swirls those colors together. Then I take my bamboo skewer, run it around the edges of the soap, and I am using this gorgeous mica called Solar Storm, and it's actually a glitter. And I'm just going to sprinkle a little over the top of my soap. I always feel like this is the fairy dust part. And then I am going to give it a light spray with my rubbing alcohol. and I'm going to put it in my fridge. I like to put my soaps in the fridge to help them set up. I also don't like glycerin rivers, and I don't like my soap to gel. So I put my soap in the fridge for about 24 hours, and when it's done, it should pop right out of my mold. And using my awesome Buds Workshop soap cutter, I'll put a link below to where I got that, I'm going to cut my soap, and you can see some of the soap bubbles here. I really think this is from when the soap started to rise and I had to re-stick blend it, and it just got really thick and I got a lot of bubbles. And I also could have tapped it down some more to get rid of some of those air bubbles. You can see the gorgeous swirls with the different blues and the green. And I love how different they all turn out. I love how these are big, thick swirls also. And then we're going to set our soap aside and let it cure for 4 to 6 weeks before it's ready to use. The really pretty coconut milk that's in this will make it really soothing and softening on the skin. And that's it, guys. You're all set. If you have any comments or questions, please post those below. If you liked this tutorial, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to The Untidy Artist, please do. I have a lot of fun soap tutorials, more on the way, and I have a lot of other fun creative tutorials, so be sure to check those out. As always, I appreciate your support, and we'll see you guys next time.